In 1948, a scientist just outside of New York was testing different food supplements on his chickens in the lab to find something that would make them gain weight as fast as possible. That was the goal for the meat industry. He eventually found something that made chickens gain weight twice as fast. And that changed the whole game in the industry, and they've been feeding animals this substance until now. And you might be having weight issues just from that alone. Do you know what it is? Stay tuned in this video to know about it and much more. Hi, this is Dr. Imad Al-Hamra again with another episode from Healing with Nature. Welcome back. Today's video is about meat. It's a continuation from the previous video, so if you haven't watched my previous video, you can go ahead and watch it after this one. And before we dive in today's topic, as always, I like to promote being in nature. That's why I'm filming outdoors, not indoors. I did a great hike yesterday with my brother and sister. We walked around for 2 hours along the different mountains and trails. And so I did a small trailer just to promote health being outside. If you like such content, it's for entertainment and health promoting. If you like such content, let me know in the comments below so I can produce more content like this. For now, let's go ahead and watch it. So hope you enjoyed that small trailer and you like the landscape around. So we like it pretty much. It's pretty nice, I think. So anyway, let's go back to our main topic today. Now, in my previous episode, I put some arguments and evidence that humans wouldn't have made it until today, or at least until the agriculture period a few thousand years ago, without eating meat. But we find thousands and thousands of studies and doctors kind of proving, quote unquote, that meat is unhealthy. It causes heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity. So it's kind of confusing. How could something be so essential and healthy and nutritious for our ancestors be so detrimental to our health nowadays? Something's wrong. There is a missing link, definitely. And so I tried to kind of answer these questions for many, many years. It's not just today. I think I have a pretty good understanding, so that's why I wanted to kind of explain it from my perspective. You can agree, disagree, that's all absolutely fine, and we can argue in the comments below in a civilized way. So let's start. First of all, the meat our ancestors ate is a little bit or way different than the meat we eat today. So today's meat is kind of changed in a way where it's become unhealthy. There's more to it, I'm going to explain more, but let's categorize the meats we have today. First of all, we still have the wild meat, and this is by far the best meat. Then we have domestic meat, domestic animals, I mean. And then we have processed meat, and then we have fake meat. And let's dive into each one of those and break them down. So wild meat is, again, wild animals, the herbivores from elk, bison, deer, wild goat, game birds, ducks, geese, pheasants, partridges, again, and wild caught fish. This is by far the best meat you can get your hands on, absolutely. And our ancestors ate such meat, and now today with the pollution, it's not as clean, but it's still the best meat you can get your hands on nowadays. Now you're gonna tell me, okay, you're promoting hunting. Well, that's how it's been all our lives, all since history. Now, the other part of meat is the domestic animals. So the domestic animals, it depends how they were raised and what they were fed. So usually before a few or even 100 years ago, the domestic animals, the sheep, the cows, the goats, the chickens, geese, whatever, turkeys, they all were pasture raised, meaning they went outside in nature, they ate the wild plants and herbs and their natural diet. So a chicken was able to run and peck and eat worms and berries, so a chicken was a chicken and a cow was a cow, etc., etc. This kind of meat is second to best to wild. It's almost like the wild meat. Everything is good about it. And that's what we ate also for thousands of years. But now, the new methods of feeding animals in the feedlots is absolutely horrendous. And they feed them unnatural foods. They don't go outside, they don't see the sun, and they're just fed a lot of genetically modified organism foods, and all the expired food from your supermarket, they go to the feedlots of the cows and the chickens. And of course, the meat from this kind of raised animals is pretty bad. It's very inflammatory, it's high in omega-6s, and the fat is bad. It's filled with bovine growth hormone and genetically modified organisms, and I can go on and on. In general, this meat is really bad, and most of the studies, up to 99% of the studies are done on these meats, on these and the processed meats, which are even worse. The processed meats is the third category, is these genetically modified or these animals that were in the feedlots that were fed an unnatural diet, then it's taken and processed, so you add more insult to injury. And now also the studies are made on the processed meats, and they're carcinogenic, definitely, no question about it. Absolutely horrible. And unfortunately, most of the people nowadays are eating meat from the feedlots and processed meats, and because they're way cheaper. And see, here's the question. Why do governments make it so expensive to buy organic meat or any organic food? If they really cared about our health, they would subsidize the natural organic food. That's meat also, and vegetables and all this stuff. But no, they make it so expensive, people can't afford it, and they go buy the cheap stuff, which makes them sick. And so you see there's a lot of corruption. Eating meat is becoming demonized now. It's pretty kind of you're being like even devilish if you eat meat, and they're blaming the cows for the global warming. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So, and they're telling you, it's sort of like, I have to say it as is, it's cow farts that are problem. The methane from cow farts is causing global warming. Like, really? Like, all the animals, all the herbivores. So before cows, there was a lot of herbivores which were wiped out for different reasons. And so they also had their biological needs, and they were producing gas. And so why wasn't there any global warming then? So all of the factories, the car pollution from the factories, and all these smoke you see from the chimneys of these nuclear power plants, etc., etc. These are kind of, they're gaslighted, not much emphasized. By cow farts, absolutely horrible. We need to get rid of the cows because there's global warming. At the same time, something is being pushed on you, and like it's gaining hype in the media, and it's Beyond Meat, which is artificial meat. Guys, look, I haven't tried Beyond Meat because I refuse to try it. Some people tried it. They say it tastes good. But if you don't want to eat meat, that's fine. Just don't eat Beyond Meat and similar products. Why? It's basically dog food. They've done it on cats and dogs. Basically, is they give them dry food. If you look at dog food and cat food, the dry, especially the dry stuff, what the hell is that really? Is that in their natural diet? It's basically a bunch of chemicals, flavor enhancers, and more chemicals, and then they give it to the animals. Now, Beyond Meat is, they tell you it's vegetable proteins, mainly soy, which is bad. There's not soy free because some people are aware of the soy, but it's mainly GMO, which is horrible. We've talked about GMO, and I'm going to talk about it more. It's mainly GMO, flavor enhancers, a bunch of stabilizers, and then they add vitamins and minerals because it's depleted. And plant-based proteins is way inferior to meat, way more inferior to meat. Look at the herbivores. They need to eat all day to compensate for the low quality protein, while carnivores, let's take the big cats, they eat once a week or once every 10 days. Why? Because the meat is so high quality, so nutritious. That applies what I said to also fish and chicken. Let's go with fish very quickly. Like in Canada and the States, I've seen it a lot. You have the wild caught salmon and the farmed salmon. The wild caught salmon is dark red, while the farmed salmon is pinkish. Just that you know, the farmed salmon, that pink color is actually a dye, because if they didn't give it the dye, it would be just gray or plain, and you wouldn't even buy it. And they're fed high corn, GMO corn, genetically modified corn, those farmed salmon. So it's really bad. While the wild salmon, it swims from the river to the sea, to the deep seas, it eats the algae, and it becomes red from the something called astaxanthin. I'm not gonna dive into astaxanthin because it will take a lot of time. It's a very powerful antioxidant, and it has a lot of benefits. I'm just gonna talk about chicken a little bit, because in chicken actually you can best see how domesticated animals have been altered to an extent that is just unbelievable. I'll tell you something. The chickens you're eating now, these big white and brown chickens, these are Frankenstein chickens. These are not the original chickens humans ate, and they've been heavily altered. And I'll tell you a very quick story. Roughly 5-6 years ago, I went to Hawaii for vacation, and of course, I look at the wildlife wherever I go. And what I found there was a lot of chickens running everywhere. And I was like, what the hell are these chickens doing here? And the chickens in Hawaii, if you've been there, you probably know what I'm talking about. The chickens in Hawaii are small, very colorful, and they're just free roaming, and they're thriving. And this is actually footage of some pictures I've taken when I was there. And these are peacocks. We're not talking about peacocks, but they also live there, same as the chickens. So the story is, when I went back, I like, where the hell did these chickens come from? Are they native to Hawaii? And the story is, the Polynesians who discovered Hawaii way before Columbus, or roughly 1500 years ago. So they of course bought their food with them, from everything, including chickens. And just to prove that early humans, and back then even, relied on animal products. Anyway, so they bought their chickens with them, and chickens originate from Southeast Asia, and it's called jungle fowl. And of course the chickens eventually went loose, and they thrived there because the climate in Hawaii is very similar to their native land. It's warm year round, no land predators such as wolves, foxes, and all this stuff, and so they just lived there, and now they've been living there since the Polynesians found Hawaii, and they're thriving. Okay, so now we're gonna go to to 1948 and to the scientist that was giving his chickens different supplements to see how fast they grew, and he discovered a substance that made them grow twice as fast. And this supplement is antibiotics. You surprised? So what happened was he was giving the chickens different supplements, vitamins, fats, whatever it is. And one lot of chickens from his experiments, he gave them the dry residue of a drug company producing aureomycin. And it was first generation tetracycline, I think. And he discovered that the chickens grew twice as fast. And that, from there, like, the meat industry went crazy. They discovered that giving antibiotics to animals made them grow and gain fat way faster. It's mainly fattening the animals. And the exact mechanism is unknown, but what's known is it disrupts, and this is my speculation, it disrupts the gut microbiome. There's no kind of disagreement on that. But why is it that they grow much faster now? The gut microbiome is, again, it's proving more and more very critical and crucial to our health. And they're bacteria, right? When you give them when you take antibiotics, the antibiotics don't discriminate between good and bad. It's like mass killing. And so when you kill a lot of your gut microbiome, you're left with more candida yeast, and you crave more sugar and you eat more, and that could be one of the reasons why you gain more fat. But the thing is, they give them low dose antibiotics. It's not enough to kill an infection, but it's enough to disrupt their gut microbiome because it's on a daily thing. And animals have been given antibiotics like since then, for the past until now. Now they're just kind of weaning off it, not because they like it. I'm going to tell you in a second why. And the funny thing is, Alexander Fleming, the person who discovered penicillin in 1928, when he took the Nobel Prize for his discovery in 1945, he actually warned that the overuse of antibiotics is going to produce a problem for health issues, and mainly it could be resistant bacteria to medication, and that's a huge problem nowadays. We have a lot of resistant bacteria and other health issues, and so everybody knew it. But as I said, they didn't care because they're corrupt, because there was a lot of money from this process on stake. So they just went ahead and did it, and they've been doing it since then. And now we have a whole lot of health issues, obesity, and resistant bacteria. Wonderful. And what I want to say is why it's affecting us, because you eat the chicken that's been fed antibiotics, you're going to get small dose, like they give them small dose, because you eat chicken a lot and meat and all this stuff, and it's going to disrupt your gut microbiome, and it's going to have the same effect. It's inevitable. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to connect the dots, right? Now, as I said, they're weaning off antibiotics, and you find a lot, say in Canada, the States, raised without antibiotics, etc., etc. Again, that's not because they like you, and that's because they care about your health, because they found the substitute for it, which is genetically modified organism, mainly corn and soy, and these act in a similar way to antibiotics, if not worse. And speaking about genetically modified organism, there's a huge connection. At least some studies show that GMO cause infertility. And really, again, in my first video where I talked about the GMOs and Dr. Arpad Putza, where he proved that GMOs are very, very bad, and immediately the whole study was pulled out. And again, you can see how the big corporates don't care about anything about their profit, and they can easily do whatever they want. But anyway, not to repeat the whole same thing, is genetically modified food causes infertility, and there are studies that have proven that. Of course, there are other studies which tell you, oh no connection, blah blah blah. I don't believe them. The food industry and the companies who are very powerful, who do the GMO foods, they sponsor studies which prove they're not harmful. But every single independent study that studied GMO and all the stuff, which wasn't funded by the GMO companies, shows that they're harmful. So you do your own conclusion. I'm telling you, GMO foods absolutely cause harm and infertility, and antibiotics cause obesity, absolutely. So I'm not saying don't take antibiotics if you're having acute infection, by all means, but you want to avoid this low dose which they give the animals, and you get it through the food chain, and of course it's a disruption of the gut microbiome, which is proving day by day to be very essential. In the end, hope I cleared the light on the different types of meat, so you make your choices when you buy. Go ahead and buy your meat, and whatever you can afford, make the best choice for you. Now, in the last episode, which is going to be my next episode about meat, I'm going to talk about how even the best meat, say wild meat, organic meat, could be harmful. Yes, for a long time I didn't want to believe it, but there's a lot of solid science that shows that. So I'm gonna explain. It's gonna be more technical, more medical, but I'm gonna kind of simplify it as much as possible. But don't worry, wild and organic meat is good, but it could be harmful. Next episode, I'm gonna explain that. Until then, stay tuned. If you want some private health coaching or consultation, shoot me an email on the email below. If you just want to support the channel, you can go on the link below, buy me a coffee. Until then, take care. This is Dr. Ahmad Al-Hamra.